and we're going to be doing a little chat. Oh, I'm shaking the camera. We're going to be having a little chat about this whole Weight Watchers thing. But if you're watching this on the replay, just so you know, we're going to get into things in a sec, but I'm going to be waiting here live for people to hop on and start chatting and all of that. So if you want to skip ahead to that, you can, or you can hang out while I wait for people to get here. Hopefully some people will show up. So I am sitting here in my kitchen, and I haven't done one of these in a while sitting here at the table, but I think I've got my setup pretty good. That works. I think y'all can see me. I can see your comments when they come through. As you're hopping on, say hello so I know you're here. Hi, Josh. If anyone else is here, you can say hello too. Let me know what's going on, how you're doing, all of that stuff. We'll just hang out here for a little bit until people get here. But we're going to be talking about this whole Weight Watchers thing. And if you saw my video on Thursday, then you kind of have the general idea of what's going on, but I just want to talk about it some more and kind of have a place where we can discuss together. Hi, Shannon. All right, so we got a couple people here now. And the way this is going to work today, and I'll probably repeat this as more people get on, is I'm kind of just going to, oh, Jason's in the background. Jason also says hi. I'm kind of just going to put some stuff out there, get us all on the same page and talk about it a little bit, and then we can get into some back and forth Q&A type of thing, and try to stick to this topic, but then of course as it goes on maybe we'll get into other things. But I really want to talk to y'all about this because it's something that is, I don't know, current, and I've seen a lot of other dietitians talking about it and putting their thoughts out there, but depending on who you follow or how much time you spend on social media, you might not see a ton of that stuff, and I kind of wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on it in real time so we can chat together. Josh says, hi, Jason. My brother's name is Jason. Josh says hi. Jason says hi back. Okay, I was hoping we have a few more people before we get started, but I might go ahead. I've also got my tablet down here so I can see stuff down here too. I usually use that just for my cooking live streams, but I thought it might be nice to have just another thing because when we're doing it, when I can do it from here looking at the screen on my phone right now, but I have to touch the screen and then the camera shakes, and I think that's kind of annoying, so I'm going to try to avoid doing that. And see, we have a few more people hopping on. Say hi when you get here. We're going to be talking about this whole Weight Watchers thing and what's been going on and just delving in a little bit deeper from what I talked about in my Thursday video. And Josh says that he has seen some other RDs post about this. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Jenna99 says, hi, hello. I'm glad that you're here. And okay, we've got a few people. I guess we'll get into this. Now, before I start, actually, let me know, did you see Thursday's video? Are you familiar with the situation? Just so I get a feel for the people here live, if you already know what's going on or not. I'm still going to do a quick overview, but I kind of just want to know if you guys have already, I mean, Josh says that he's been seeing some stuff about it. Have the rest of you seen some things about it, either from me or someone else, and you're kind of aware of the situation? I'm going to try to do a good job of drinking water during this live stream because I always forget, and then I always get like, I don't know, raspy voice, or like I wait too long and then I'm like, I need something to drink. Okay, well, Josh is the only one who said anything. Josh says, I've not seen Thursday's video, but I have a general idea. Okay. So we'll cover it just real briefly, and then we can talk a little bit more. So, and if you want more details, of course, you can go watch that video. It's less than 4 minutes, so it's a really quick one. And I'll have that linked after the fact. If you're watching this on the replay, it should be in the cards or something, and you can go over and watch it. So basically, Weight Watchers, I think pretty much everyone knows what Weight Watchers is. It's counting points as a form of dieting. Well, they have announced that this summer they're going to be offering a special promotion for children ages 13 to 17 where they can sign up for free. And I've seen some places that it's going to be for 6 weeks. Other places it doesn't say that, so I'm not sure. I read their press release or their statement or whatever about it, and they didn't have the 6 weeks thing in there, but maybe they've said that elsewhere. So that's what's going on. Basically, teenagers, summer of 2018, this summer, they're going to be able to sign up for free to join Weight Watchers. And it's caused a lot of a stir, which I think is great. I mean, when I first saw this, I saw this on Twitter. A dietitian just shared it, and I was like, oh, wow. And that was on Thursday. So it was before I filmed the video. I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm going to talk about today. Because it was just kind of happening, and I saw it and I was like, this is awful. And then after I made that video, I started to see more and more dietitians talking about it, which I think is really good. And actually this past Saturday, if you go on Twitter, or really any social media, but Twitter is the main one I would say, and search the hashtag Wake Up Weight Watchers, on Saturday, I think it was at noon, a bunch of people got on using that hashtag to share their thoughts about it, maybe their personal experiences with Weight Watchers, if they had done it as a child or maybe seen a parent do it as a child. And it's really great to see all these people speaking out about it. I was not able to see it happen in real time because if you follow me on Instagram, then you saw that I was actually in Colorado this past weekend filming a course with someone. So I was just filming stuff all day, and so then I kind of had to catch up like that evening and the next day while I was waiting for my flights and stuff like that. But that really got me excited to see so many people speaking out about it and just sharing all of the problems with it. So I thought this would be a good time for us to discuss. So Jenny99 says that they compared Weight Watchers to targeting teens on the show Shaq's Big Challenge. Yes, I remember that. You commented on that video that I made. So I'm not familiar with that show Shaq's Big Challenge, but apparently it was kind of like a Biggest Loser-esque style show with Shaq for kids. But I don't know, you said that a kid got taken away in an ambulance or something, that there were a lot of problems with that. So yeah, I think it's probably something similar to that. And then Nita says, hello. Hi, Nita. How are you? So with this whole Weight Watchers and targeting kids things, the first thing I want to say is that Weight Watchers having kids involved is nothing new. And that's kind of the thing about this. It's like, yeah, this is really bad that they're offering this for free to try to get people in the door, but still, they've kind of been doing this sort of thing, at least to some degree, all the time. I don't know currently if they accept teenagers, but I know at least in the past they did, because you'll see all kinds of stories of people who joined Weight Watchers as a child and, you know, went to meetings with a parent or a relative or whatever, and they were, you know, in there, I guess, you know, your parent just signs off on it and then it's okay. And you see all these stories from people, and like I said, if you search that hashtag Wake Up Weight Watchers, you'll see a lot of this of people saying, you know, I started Weight Watchers when I was 12, and that was kind of the first step for me leading on down a path towards an eating disorder. Or, you know, people saying, I started it when I was in high school, and, you know, it led to so many years of struggles with body image and dieting and all of these issues. And then as far as me personally, I don't think of myself as someone who did Weight Watchers as a kid, and I kind of just like remembered it a few days after all of this happened. But Weight Watchers was actually one of my first experiences with dieting. I would say, I think I was 12. I never enrolled in Weight Watchers or like went to meetings or anything like that, but I did have a relative who had done Weight Watchers or was doing it currently, and I was interested in going on a diet at 12, which is, like, now looking back, I'm like, wow, so much going on there. But I was able to get some of the info from this relative, with like the points and the numbers and everything. So I wasn't doing the program, but I knew what all the points were for all the foods, and I just kind of did it on my own. I used their little thing, like, this is how many points you should have according to them, and I did that, and that was my first diet that I went on, and I tracked everything, and that was my first experience with, you know, tracking my food and counting and doing all that stuff. I mean, that was the beginning of many, many years for me personally, struggling with dieting and body image and all that kind of stuff, and it took a long time for me to get through that and get out of that. So I mean, even for me, it's not something that I think about, I guess, because I wasn't, like, officially in it, but it's definitely something that impacted me, too. And so now to see that they're doing this kind of free promotion, which is really, I mean, they have this whole thing about how they're trying to help people, and it's about health and whatever, but Weight Watchers is about weight. I mean, it's in the name, and it's about restricting food. You get points and you count them. And we don't know what this program for these teenagers is going to look like. They've put out a statement since the whole Wake Up Weight Watchers thing on Twitter happened, and people have been talking about it, and they've been getting a lot of pushback from people, you know, saying this is really wrong. And they put out a statement saying that, you know, they hear the people who are saying this, and that they are going to work to make that this isn't about, you know, putting kids on diets. It's about helping families come together to have a healthy lifestyle, and they're going to be working with health professionals as they plan this program. I mean, that's what they're saying, but I really don't have a lot of faith in that. Like, we'll see what happens when it comes about, but again, Weight Watchers is in the name. Their whole company and brand and what they do is about weight, and it's focused on people's weight, and it's about counting points. I mean, and of course they change the program all the time. People say, oh, well, you know, now it's like this, and it might not be what you think it is or something. It's still counting. Okay, they change the point values for things, or they make more things 0 points, but then they lower the total number of points that you're allowed to have. So, I mean, yes, it changes over the years, but it's not a substantial change to what they're doing. It's still about restricting the amount of food you take in, disconnecting from your body's own signals, and instead using these outside numbers to tell you what to eat and how much to eat, which is a real problem. And even if they're not having the kids count points or weigh in, they're bringing them into the Weight Watchers environment where that kind of stuff is happening, and the company is about weight and weight loss. And I really see this as just a way to get people in the door, get them on the program, help them, you know, help to bring people in and kind of bring on that identity of, I do Weight Watchers and this is the thing I do, and get them familiar with it and kind of get their foot in there, so that once they do become adults, then they've got them there when these people are still dealing with body image issues or, you know, pressure to diet from society or whatever. Their hope is that they will come to Weight Watchers instead of going to some other diet company because they've had this experience as a child. And I really think that's what's going on here. And you know, it's just about bringing people in. And I mean, the whole reason something like Weight Watchers works is it's all about people coming in and going out and coming right back in. I mean, when you think about people, I don't know about you, at least for me, people in my life who've done Weight Watchers, it's a revolving door. And that's why Weight Watchers is successful, right? Because if people came in and said, oh, wow, this didn't work, I'm going to get out of here, then they'd be out of business. But them, just like all kinds of diet companies, it's about getting people in. They have some sort of initial success, but it doesn't last because it's not sustainable and it's all about restricting, and eventually the body pushes back, right? Then people gain weight back and then they come back in the door again. And so they lose weight, then they gain weight, then they come back. And it's just this whole cycle. And so it's not about getting new customers. It's really those same customers sticking with it. Or they'll have things where, you know, people are on Weight Watchers and then even after they have lost whatever weight they were trying to lose or whatever, they feel like they have to still stay on that program. They still have to restrict their food because they pushed their body into this shape, you know, through this restriction and manipulation. And then they've got to, you know, just like any type of dieting, people have to continue to stay restrictive and fight against their body's natural response, and oftentimes restrict more and exercise even more because their body is pushing back to maintain that weight loss. So they're still using the Weight Watchers program. I know in the past they've done the thing where if like you stayed within a certain amount of your goal weight, then you could still use all of their resources and stuff for free. But if your weight went up to a certain point, then you had to start paying again, which again seems like this weird punitive system of like, keep your weight down and like restrict your food, or you're gonna have to start shelling out money. I don't know, it all seems very strange and dangerous to me. And I don't know too, like as far as pregnancy, again, I am not up with every iteration of what they do, and every single group might be different, but I have heard about people, you know, after you have your baby, then, you know, you have a certain amount of time to get down to a certain weight, and then you can still stay in for free, but if you don't get down to that in time, then you're gonna have to start paying again. It's like putting pressure on women after they've had a child and their body is trying to heal and recover, that they need to lose weight. Just everything that they do and the way that they do it, there's a ton of problems in there. And then what's really damaging and disturbing now, I think, is that they are trying to switch it into this lifestyle thing. We've seen a lot of this here recently. Diet companies and people trying to promote diets know that diets aren't popular anymore. People are starting to realize that they have a lot of problems and that they aren't sustainable, and that they, oh, hey, Porngy, the kitties are talking in the background. They put you in this bad mindset and, you know, are really damaging to people's physical health, people's mental health. So no one wants to say that they're doing a diet now, right? So they try to switch it all. It's about a healthy lifestyle. But just because you call a diet a lifestyle doesn't make it a lifestyle. If it's a diet, it's still a diet, and that has to do with what's in it, not whatever name you slap on the front of it. So that's my initial spiel. Now that I've gotten all of that out, I wanted to hear what y'all had to say and just answer any questions or have a discussion about this, and just go through it all. And I think Jason's about to make himself a coffee in the background.
I was wondering if I could also ask questions rather than typing in the chat.
Yeah, you can.
While I also make a coffee.
You can ask questions if you want.
All right.
Go ahead. I've got a couple comments I need to go through, but.
Well, first. So
Can I go through the comments first?
Yeah. Okay.
And then Jason will ask his questions. Okay, so let me see what y'all have said while I was going on my little rant. Okay, so going back to that show, Shaq's Big Challenge or whatever it was called, Jenna99 says, yes, a kid needed an ambulance, and I believe it was because that the child was pushed too hard, I guess physically doing some sort of exercise, because Shaq was not a child fitness expert or whatever. He's just like a basketball player. And Jenna99 says they care more about money. Now, which, yeah, I mean, they're a business. And I've seen some people say online, like, well, what's wrong with caring about money? If you're a business, then you have to make money. Totally understand that. But, you know, there's ethical ways to make money, and then there's unethical things. If you're taking advantage of people or manipulating people or putting people's health at risk, that's not okay. And I also want to say, I think that people who work at Weight Watchers, I don't want to say that they're all like evil villains or something, because I think that a lot of times we like look at big companies like, oh, they're all evil. I don't know the people who are making the decisions there personally. I don't know what they know about health or what their intentions are. I think there is a possibility that they may think we are really trying to help people's health. We are giving people resources for that because there is such a focus on weight in our culture, and weight being the measure of health, and weight being the most important thing. Or, you know, if you're a certain weight, then there's no way you can be healthy, and getting that weight, getting that number down to whatever number someone decides is the most important thing. So it could very well be that they are in that mindset of like, people need to lose weight, and we're helping them do that, and we're also making money doing it because we're providing a service and information, all that kind of thing. So that very well could be it. But at the same time, when you have all these people speaking up, health professionals saying like, no, that's actually a misconception, and this can actually damage people's health and well-being, I just hope that they would listen to that, and we'll see where it goes from here. But really, for them to make a shift, they're going to have to change the way their whole business works. And that's going to be hard for them to do. I mean, to change your whole business, you really have to have a big shift to say, okay, we got to do things differently. And not that that can't happen, but it's harder for it to happen, I think, when you have such a large company with investors and so many people's money at stake and all of that. Yeah, so, you know, I don't want to make it like, oh, these people are evil, but I do think what they're doing is really dangerous. And I think we got to call that out, because I don't want people getting hurt. Okay, and I have a lot of comments coming in, so I'll stop running my mouth and get through more of the comments. You're never going to get to ask your questions,
Okay.
Jason. Okay. So, Edward says, thanks for your videos. Learning / having a good laugh almost every time. Good. I'm glad that you're enjoying them. Josh says, do you think tracking your food is always a bad idea, or in the right context, can it actually help someone move towards their goal? Okay, so when it comes to tracking your food, I would say almost 100% not a good idea. And there's several reasons for that. The only times, and I'll tell you that in a second, I will say the only times I think any sort of tracking might be appropriate is if there is some sort of medical reason. So for example, if someone has kidney failure and they're on dialysis and they have to watch their potassium, they might make notes about the potassium-rich foods they're having. Maybe their, dietitian or their doctor tells them you can have this food once a week, or you can have this food twice a week, and that's, to keep your potassium levels somewhat in bounds, until you go to dialysis again. Then it might make sense for them to say, okay, I had X food on Monday, that's good for me to know, so I, can kind of keep that under control and keep my potassium and other minerals and stuff that they're tracking. Another example might be if someone has diabetes, and so they need to count carbs and match that up with their insulin, or they're keeping some sort of food diary for their dietitian to look at so their dietitian can see what they're doing and help them make some tweaks. Those would be examples where food tracking could be helpful for a medical reason. But in general, people tracking food is not healthy, and here's why. It can create an obsession with food, and just a preoccupation with food where you're thinking about every little thing. And it can also, again, mess up the way you think about food and the way you make your food choices, because it's not a necessary thing to do. Our bodies are great at handling what comes in and dealing with it. And if you're getting a variety of things, you're not just eating one food group, or you're never getting a vegetable, you're never eating, grains ever or something. If you're getting a variety and you're paying attention to how your body is feeling, and you're mixing things up, then your body can handle the rest. It's only when you have a medical thing going on that any sort of tracking is going to be needed. And when we start doing that tracking, it can cause us to, become preoccupied, obsess about food, and can lead towards eating disorder. And I do want to say, not everyone who goes on a diet or does Weight Watchers is going to develop an eating disorder. But a lot of people, the majority of people, I would say, who have eating disorders, it started with a diet. And I also think there's a lot of things that we kind of think of as like encouraged behaviors or socially acceptable things that people don't actually realize are actually disordered eating. It might not be a full-blown eating disorder, but it is some sort of disordered eating habit. And I'm tracking everything you eat would be one of those things. And a lot of people encourage tracking. That's a perfect example of that. Like, I hear people all the time say, track all your food in an app or write everything down in a journal, and that's the key, when they don't realize that that's not a normal, healthy thing to do. So yeah, if you have more questions about that, go ahead and ask, but that's my initial thing. Okay. Go through more things. Okay, Nita has a lot of stuff, and I'm excited to see what you have to say, Nita, because you always have good questions. So, Nita says, I hear what you're saying about diets, but the reality is that some of us need weight loss or need to lose weight and paying attention to your body's cues, but the reality is that not many people understand what that means. Okay, I hear that. She says, or has the resources to get that info. So my question is, how do you advise an overweight person to lose weight? Some of us are heavy and it's unhealthy. I don't mean to be challenging. I just want to learn. Totally fine, Nita. You're never rude or anything like that. You always have great questions. Okay, so there's a couple things in here. Try and think of the best way to go through it. Okay, so the first thing I would say is the idea that there are people who need to lose weight. I think this is a common misconception that people have, that we can kind of put people in these like clear weight categories, and if your weight's above this number, then unhealthy and you need to get it off of you. And I think that's happened because maybe we look at populations as a whole, right? And you can use things like different categories like underweight and normal weight and overweight or obese, and you can see, okay, for a population, normally most people are kind of in this range, and so that's what we're going to call normal. But just like with anything else, from person to person, we have a big spectrum. And so we might have most people kind of clump here in the middle, but there are going to be outliers, and there's no way for us to know that by just looking at a person. So that's looking at a population, but when you're talking about an individual person, we don't have signs over our heads that say, this is the right range for me as far as weight is concerned. And, it's not like one specific number. It's usually, a range within a few pounds or something. But we can't know that about any individual person just by looking at them. It's kind of the same thing as height. Most people are kind of going to be in the middle, but you have people who are very short, and you have people who are very tall. And that's just the way they are. And yeah, they might not be what the average person would be, but that's just kind of the way their body's built. So we have to get away from this idea that I'm going to look at you and say, oh, this is your weight, you need to lose weight. Because we can't do that, because some people are just naturally heavier, some people are naturally thinner, and then we also have, as far as body structure, some people are, stockier, some people less so. So there's so much range there. So to try to fit everyone to this very narrow like body shape or body type, it's just not healthy, because not everyone's going to fit into that. And then the other thing about weight loss and putting the focus on weight is that, again, I think a lot of people think, well, we need to help people lose weight because they're operating under this idea that being heavier is automatically unhealthy and that this is what's necessary for health, and if we focus on weight, that will help people do healthy things. But the reality is that because we have such a variety in shape and size, you could be someone who's, eating well, getting good sleep, moving your body in a way that feels good for you, managing your stress, having great relationships, doing all those things, and you might not fit into that, what everyone is supposed to look like, ideal that people put out there. So then what happens is, because we're putting the focus on weight, is it actually discourages healthy behaviors. I think if you've ever been on a diet, this is definitely something that I've experienced and I've seen in lots and lots of other people, just personally, clients, all that kind of stuff. I think most people have had this experience of being on a diet and kind of doing all the right things. You're eating well, you're sleeping, you're getting physical activity, you're doing all that stuff, and then the scale doesn't move, or it doesn't move in the direction that you wanted it to or expected it to, and it totally discourages all those healthy behaviors, because you kind of feel like, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not working. Like, what's the point? The point of this is I'm supposed to lose weight. And so then it's like, well, why am I even going to do this anyways? And so that's not helping people to be healthier. It's actually getting in the way of people being healthier. And what determines your health is what you're doing, and your genetics and environmental factors and your financial situation. All these kinds of different factors are coming together, but it's not about what you look like. It's all of that other stuff. And then also, the other thing, and I think this is a really good phrase to kind of sum all this up, is that you can't hate yourself healthy. Weight loss type programs, it's based on this idea that you're not okay, being at a bigger size, that there's something wrong with you and that you need to work on that and you need to change that about yourself. And it's a lot about self-loathing and negative body image. But how can you take good care of something if you hate it? Really, what we need to help people do is to appreciate their bodies however they look, and then that actually helps people to be able to make healthy changes. And whether they lose weight or not, I don't really care. What I care about is what that person is doing. If someone wants to make healthy changes and then they're able to accomplish that, then that's great, and that's really what the end goal should be. It shouldn't be about weight. Let me look at your comments again. And if you have other questions as I'm going through this, let me know. Okay, so the other thing you asked, Nita, was about getting resources, getting information. Okay, so there's a few different ways you can do this. If you want individualized help, working with a non-diet dietitian is a great place to go. I am one of those, so if you'd like to work with me, I am a resource that's available. If you'd like to find someone else, if you don't want to work with me, that's cool too. But that can be a great place to go, is working with someone one-on-one who can do something personalized for you that isn't going to try to put you on a diet or make it about your weight, but help you to have a healthy relationship with food and just work on whatever you're looking to work on, and just not tell you what to do, but someone who's going to guide you and stand beside you and encourage you through that process. So that's one thing. There's also lots of other resources if you can't afford one-on-one help, or if you're not ready for that, or for whatever reason, if you want something else. I would say look at other social media accounts. My page is a resource, but also, looking at people on Instagram. There's so many non-diet dietitians out there. If you look at the people that I'm following, that's a great place to start on Instagram, because I follow a lot of RDs over there, so those are other people you could follow. Also, there are podcasts, so Food Psych is a podcast that talks a lot about this stuff, interviews a lot of different people. That's run by a dietitian named Christy Harrison. So that's a good place. And also, as I'm going through this, remember too that like not every person on social media or not every podcast or not every resource might be right for you, but that doesn't mean that you should stop looking or that it's not out there, because everyone has a different style. I mean, y'all know, if you watch my videos, I guess that means that you enjoy the way I talk about things or the way I explain things or kind of my personality or my vibe or whatever. But there might be people out there that you don't really vibe with, and that's okay. You know, there's so many options. So I just want to put that out there. So Food Psych is a good one. Body Kindness is another one, another podcast. I'm trying to think of what other ones that I follow. There are others. This is, I can't look on my phone because I'm streaming to you on my phone. Those are the first two that come to mind. Food Matters, I think that's what it's called. So my podcast I just listened to, but I don't know the name, with Paige Smathers. She's another RD. That's one. There's also one called Don't Salt My Game. That's by a dietitian. There's a lot. And if you start following a lot of these dietitians on Instagram especially, you kind of start to learn them and learn about each other, because they always reference each other or, you know, interview each other on their podcasts or whatever. So those are some places to get started. And also books. If you like reading, or if you want something a little more tangible than just listening to a podcast or watching a video, books are great. So if you want to know there's a lot out there. I have a lot of them actually linked in my Amazon shop, and there should be a link for that. There is a link for that, I know, because I put it in there. There's a link for that in the description of this video. So if you go over there, and if you buy stuff through those links, I do get a small commission from that, just full disclosure with that. You pay the same price, but I get a little chunk of that, which is a nice way to support the channel and the work here if that's something you want to do. So there are several books over there. Intuitive Eating is a great one, and there's also the Intuitive Eating workbook to go along with that, so you'll see that. Body Kindness, so that podcast, it's also a book by the same person, Rebecca Scritchfield. That's over there. So those are two really good ones to start with if you want to get into this stuff. Intuitive Eating is about kind of breaking down all the diety mindset stuff and getting to a healthier place with food, and it's just a great framework for caring about health and taking care of yourself but not dieting. And then Body Kindness, a lot of that is about developing healthy habits, and it's not just about food, so she talks about other components of health in there too, which I think is really good. So those are two books. So there is a lot of information and resources there, and I think that's great because there's more and more of this stuff all the time. There's so much information about dieting out there, but now there's more and more information about not dieting, which is good too. Edward says, has a kitchen tool question. We'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna try to stick to this topic for a little bit, but if we finish up with this, I might go back to some other off-topic questions. Josh asked, do you think the weight loss mentality and programs like this in the US have contributed to obesity? Okay, it's a good question, because it is a thing that with dieting, actually for most people, they end up being heavier in the long run. And that's another reason why I don't like the focus on weight and the dieting, because even if you think that weight is the problem, okay, let's take out all the stuff I said about how weight isn't the problem. Let's say you still think that weight is the problem. No, Sarah, you're wrong. Weight is the thing we need to fix. Dieting actually results in weight gain in the end. So it's like 95% of people who go on a diet gain all the weight back in the end, and about 2/3 of those people actually end up gaining more weight in the end. And weight cycling and yo-yo dieting is so bad for your health. That's really, really damaging. And on top of that, if you think that weight is a problem, then people are actually gaining more weight. So yeah, I think it definitely contributes, because people end up in this weight cycling effect, and it's really discouraging for people because they have been putting so much effort and energy into this diet thing, and then it keeps not working, and they think it's their fault. It's my personal failing, and it never occurs to most people, or at least a lot of people, that it's actually the diet that's causing the problem. It's not them. And I think that's, just another reason why all of this stuff is so wrong, is because it it's just about making people feel bad about themselves when they're not the problem. It's the diet that's causing the problem. And then I think also, this kind of like a lot of the way we talk about food, the moral language we use and all that kind of stuff, it just puts people in this really unhealthy mindset. And so that can lead to, overeating type behavior and people being disconnected again with their body's own signals because they've done so much dieting. And that's one thing that those resources I mentioned or working with a dietitian can help with, is helping you learn how to tap back into that. And get to that healthier place. It is a process. It takes time because you've got, all the stuff that's been built up from the messages you've received from the culture and your family and your friends and all the diets that maybe you've been on in the past, and kind of peeling all that stuff away and getting back to how we are when we were first born, we first, arrive on this planet, with not having all that stuff running around in our head and messing up the way we think about food and our food choices and that sort of thing. Nita says, please know I love you, princess. Please don't take my comments negatively. They're not, just trying to lose weight myself, and I don't get that paying attention to your body's cues. Sure thing, Nita. I know you're so sweet, and I never take your stuff negatively because you always say it in a nice way, and I know that you are consistently here and consistently, tuned in and paying attention, and you're not a nasty troll. So don't worry about that. And I appreciate all your questions because they're totally valid questions to ask. So the paying attention to your body's cues, it's something that can be hard to do if you're not used to doing it. Again, it's something that kind of happens naturally, but we can get disconnected from it and then we don't know how to get back to it. So, wait one second. Sorry, y'all. I'm having an issue on my iPad. Oh, there we go. So, I totally lost my train of thought now. Right, paying attention to your body's cues. I'm here, y'all. Let me get a drink of water. So, it's something that can take practice. I think one thing that can help is, and again, this is something that it's going to take time to work on. I mean, I'll just tell you personally, for me, it's something that I had to work on when I stopped dieting, and it did take time, and sometimes you get confused or you don't know what's happening because you're not used to doing it, and it can be tricky to figure out again. So totally just want to put that out there and acknowledge that it's not something that you just do, and it's so easy, but it's totally worth it. So I think the first thing is just taking all of the rules out of the food stuff. So if you're used to, counting points or counting calories or, following some sort of thing where you put your food in containers of a certain size, or there's all sorts of variations out there, but to take that stuff and pull it away, because that's getting in the way of you being able to pay attention to your body because you have these outside things telling you what to do. And the next step is just becoming more mindful at your meals, paying attention to your food. I know for a lot of people, we just kind of, meal times or eating isn't something that we savor or enjoy or are really present for. It's just like another thing we have to do. Just like I have to brush my teeth, or I need to drive to work, or whatever. I just got to get this food in my body so my body will keep running and I can go into the next thing. So being mindful at mealtime, slowing down, getting rid of distractions, that can really help. So, you're not answering emails or watching TV or whatever, just kind of pushing all that stuff out of the way. Another thing I think can help is doing some sort of meditation or yoga, something unrelated to food, but that helps you practice being mindful and paying attention to your body. Y'all know I love Yoga with Adriene, such an awesome channel. I'm not a personal trainer or anything like that, but I think that is a great free resource that's available to people if you don't have access to a gym, or even if you do. I mean, honestly, having an at-home yoga practice where you can just roll out that mat and turn on her videos, it's so nice, and I love the way she does everything. She really brings in a lot of that mindfulness. aspect into it, but it's still approachable if you're a beginner. It's not too like woo-woo out in the clouds that you're like, I don't know what's happening. She does a really great balance of like incorporating that stuff, but still making it not intimidating if you're a newbie or so like out there that you're like, this is weird, I don't know what's happening, I gotta get out. And she has so many different lengths of practices, you know, from 10 minutes to an hour and different levels. And even within a video, she does a great job of saying, you know, if you're more advanced, you can do this. If this is challenging for you, you can do this to kind of take it down a level. So I can't say enough great things about her and that channel, Yoga with Adriene. It is a phenomenal resource, and I think can help with a lot of these things, with body image things too. Just appreciating your body for the way it is, and also learning how to, you know, maybe challenge yourself but not push too hard, you know, like a gentle challenge but not pushing yourself over the edge, you know, being uncomfortable with being a little uncomfortable, but also not trying to hurt yourself. It's just, it's great. And Josh says, hooray for yoga, and that Adriene's videos are great. So see, it's not just me. And I mean, she has plenty of people over there. So there's a lot of people that agree that Adriene is a great resource. Oh, Josh says, Sarah, your social pages are great resources. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you think so. And Jenin99 says, do you think eating habits get better when cooking skills get better? I think they can. I mean, I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people that I see, is not knowing how to cook, because it just so limits your options of what you're able to do. And it can make it harder to get that variety in your diet. And also, just being comfortable around food and comfortable in the kitchen, I think is a really important skill that a lot of people don't have. It's something I see a lot, where people never learned how to cook. And then if they do want to try, it's really frustrating because they're kind of starting from zero, and it does take a while. You know, it's just like anything. If you don't know how to do it, it's going to take you longer to do than if you did know how to do it, and it might be frustrating just because you have that learning curve. So then that kind of gets in the way of people, because they're like, oh, this takes so much time, I don't know what I'm doing, because they are having trouble pushing through that learning process, especially when it's something like food. It's not like something, I'll just practice my knitting on the side. It's like, well, I've got to eat, and now I'm trying to make this thing, and I've made a mess, and it doesn't taste good, and I'm still hungry. You know, that can be really frustrating. People just want to get food on the table. So I think that's a big barrier, and I think that's why it's so important to make sure we're keeping those skills, and for, you know, people to teach their kids from a very young age and bring them into the kitchen, because kids can help out the kitchen almost from the beginning. I mean, once they can start grabbing things, you know, very early on, they can start stirring and mixing and pouring and measuring and all kinds of things. And that's a much more pleasant way to learn about cooking than to kind of be like 25 or 30 or 40 and be like, okay, I'm gonna try to figure this out now, and I'm gonna make dinner tonight for myself, and it has to work, that sort of thing. So cooking skills definitely can get in the way, or not having cooking skills, should I say, can get in the way. Okay, Josh says, I think that's my barrier. Not cooking plus anxiety plus bad environment. Eating habits are not ideal. Jenna99 says same. Anita says that is so true. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's great that you recognize that, Josh, that you know, not cooking can get in the way. Because, I mean, not that you have to cook every single meal from scratch or whatever, but it just really opens things up to you, because what you can get, especially like for me, I don't live in some big giant city or whatever, like there aren't a lot of options as far as eating out, at least close to me. So when I do eat out, I don't have that much stuff to choose from, versus when I'm cooking my own kitchen, you know, I can get all kinds of things at the grocery store, and I can make just so much more is available to me. Which helps out a ton. Plus, when you cook at home and you start to learn how to cook, you can make food that tastes really good, and you would be surprised at just how good you can make your food taste. And you also get to make it how you like it, which makes it even better. You know, all that, being able to customize it is really, really nice. Okay, I'm gonna get another drink of water. All right, Josh says, I love seeing kids in the kitchen. One regret I have from my childhood was never being in the kitchen. Yeah, I mean, and it helps kids too, you know, to learn about food, in addition to learning about cooking, but just learning about food, and it's great for them to develop, you know, those different motor skills and everything. I think kids with gardening too is a great thing, because I mean, just seeing how a plant grows and being able to take care of it and seeing where food comes from, I think is so awesome. So I think it's really great to get kids in the kitchen and to get kids in the garden if you have one, just because it's a great opportunity for them to start learning about that stuff so that they can have those skills as they become adults. Because that's really the thing with raising kids, right? Is helping them to become adults that can take care of themselves. So, Josh says, Sarah, your cook dinner lives with me have helped. Just need to put them into action. That's good to hear. I really like doing those live streams. If y'all don't know what Josh is talking about, I do a live stream on the first Thursday of every single month, and I make dinner while I live stream. So y'all get to see what I'm cooking, how I'm cooking it. I also answer any like cooking questions y'all have, or sometimes nutrition questions. It's really interesting to me when I do those streams. It seems like the questions will either skew very heavily towards the culinary side of things or very heavily to more like nutrition questions. And I don't know why that is, but it's always funny. And excuse me, I'm burping. Afterwards, I'll always comment to Jason like, oh, that one was like a lot of nutrition questions, or that one was a lot of cooking questions. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just one person kind of gets the ball rolling and everyone else just kind of sticks with that theme, or gives them other ideas, or kind of like moves the conversation a certain direction. But those are really fun and a great resource for information about cooking and, you know, just meal inspiration, all that kind of thing. If you've never attended one, they are a lot of fun and I really enjoy them. Nita says, it teaches culture too because people cook their cultural foods. Yes, food and cooking are such a big part of culture and relationships and family. All of that stuff. And I think that's so important, is to keep those, you know, cultural foods, cultural recipes intact, because, you know, sometimes people say, you know, food is fuel. And that's true to a certain extent. Like, yes, food does give our body the energy and the materials that it needs to keep running, but it's so much more than that. You know, food has to do with our culture and our traditions and our relatives and our friends and our neighbors and coming together and having those relationships and community and all that kind of stuff, which I absolutely think we can't forget about. So thanks for bringing that up, Nita. Josh says the live streams are a lot of fun. Definitely recommend joining, and that he totally agrees with Nita. Yeah, so I mean, and I think that's the big thing that I worry about. Going back to this Weight Watchers thing, you know, I just think, you know, whether we talk about, you know, the aspect of Weight Watchers just as a program in itself, which we've discussed a lot here, the fact that they're targeting teenagers in such a vulnerable place, I think it can really get in the way of a lot of that cultural stuff and that development of, you know, people pushing away the foods of their family or the foods that they were raised with because it doesn't fit with the program or whatever. And that's just not necessary. I mean, all foods fit within a healthy eating pattern, and we don't want to lose those things because I think they are so important. And also with the whole Weight Watchers thing, another thing I worry about with that with teens is that it is this time where bodies are changing, people are developing, they're growing, they're trying to figure out who they are, and, you know, there can be a lot of weight gain in that period, which is totally natural and important as you have this child's body becoming an adult's body. And so a lot of issues can come up with that, and then to look at a kid and tell them, well, your body's wrong, or you need help to lose weight or whatever, rather than helping, they're already feeling uncomfortable in their body, and then to have someone say, yeah, you're right, you should feel uncomfortable, we need to do something about it. It's so wrong on so many levels. And I also want to say, like, it's not an attack on parents who maybe have signed their kids up for Weight Watchers or are thinking about putting them in this program, maybe, you know, people who aren't watching this live stream but who will sign their kids up for this free trial, because I think parents who do that, like I was talking about the company earlier, to some extent, absolutely true for parents. I think, you know, the vast majority, they're just trying to help their kid, and they're hearing that, you know, certain weights are bad or unhealthy or whatever, or maybe their family doesn't have a good variety and a healthy eating pattern, and they're like, well, I guess this is what we have to do. You know, it's not that they're bad parents or that they're trying to harm their child or anything like that. It's just they're kind of operating with the best information they have and trying to do the best that they can. And that's why I think, you know, it's really important to get this message out there and let people know that these things can be harmful, and that there are other things that we can do instead, and that we don't need to do this dieting stuff. So, other comments. Oh, Josh says, and Valentine's Day, cook a healthy meal with your spouse rather than fuss with going out and spending a lot of money and dealing with crowds. Yes, Valentine's Day, I mean, Jason and I have been talking about this. What do we want to do for Valentine's Day? And like, I definitely appreciate the let's go out on this day because this is the day, but there's also a huge part of me that's like, well, why don't we stay in for Valentine's Day and then we can go out to dinner like another day and just make it our Valentine's Day, you know, when you're gonna get good service because the restaurant is, you know, packed with a bunch of people or whatever, and it can be a little bit more low-key, and you don't have to wait forever or all that sort of thing. You know, stay in, have a nice dinner, and then maybe do something another night. And if you want to do something the night of, that's perfectly fine too. But for me, I think I'd rather have something on a night that isn't a big holiday and be able to have a better time and still get a fun experience. Nita says, food is a part of religion for many people. That's true, yeah. Food can be a part of religious, all kinds of aspects of religion. So that's important too. Fresh Archie. I knew how to say this one time and now I've forgotten. You can correct me. But I always love seeing comments from you. You always have such great stuff to say. They say, Weight Watchers makes me mad. I live in a dorm and they rent a room in our space and always try to get us into it. We're 18 to 25 years old. That is terrible. So they have like, maybe you can give us more details on this. They rent a space in your dorm, like for people to go to meetings and like weigh-ins and stuff? Because that is really bad. And to like, especially again, another group that's at risk, you know, I mean, 13 to 17, terrible, but 18 to 25, your body is still becoming an adult body. You're maybe, for most people, I would think, living on your own for the first time. Yes, they hold meetings in our common room. Oh, this is terrible because, I mean, college is such a time where you're out on your own for the first time. You're trying to figure out how to handle this stuff. A lot of people gain weight in college, partially because they're still growing and becoming adults, partially because they're getting used to their new life of not being in high school and in their parents' house and trying to figure out their own food stuff and whatever. Like, it's such a part of transition, and I think that would be so, because I mean, so many of you know, you've shared your personal experiences with me as far as, you know, disordered eating, dieting, eating disorders, all kinds of things. You know, for a lot of people, an eating disorder or dieting can come in when you're in that kind of vulnerable place and you kind of latch onto the diet as maybe a part of identity or something to find community. I mean, you're in college, you're trying to meet new people, come to the Weight Watchers meeting and hang out in the common room and then you meet people. Like, that's so disturbing to me. That really, I can't get over that. Wow. Ugh. Okay, well, that's sad that that's a thing. And, I mean, to me, that says a lot about the company. Like, we've been talking about that, about what are their motivations with this, what are their real intentions, money, you know, and is definitely a factor here. I mean, I think that's a perfect example, like preying on vulnerable college students who are trying to find their footing and place in the world and encouraging them to join a program to lose weight. Okay. Jenny99 says, I find it helpful when I see someone cook and give instructions. Also, when people like you show that eating healthy shouldn't be difficult, helps. So I'm glad to hear that, because especially I love doing those monthly live streams. And if y'all are getting that out of that, then that's my goal. And I'm very happy to hear that. Nita says, I think they're well-meaning parents who don't want their kids unhealthy, and they work with the information that is put there. Exactly, right. I think, yeah, there can definitely be a tendency to demonize the parents, but You know, they're just trying to do what they know or what they've been told. And so that's why we have to make sure we're giving people good information. Nita says, okay, I have to leave you, but it's been great. Thanks for hanging out, Nita. I'm glad you were able to make it, and I always appreciate seeing what you have to say in the comments of live streams or just on regular videos that I post. Or thanks for hanging out and always sharing your perspective and asking such great questions. Josh says, yep, that's why the work you do is so important, Sarah. Thank you. That is so sweet. I really appreciate that. And Jenna99 says, the diet companies make eating healthy, figuring out what to eat, or how to eat, how much to eat look harder. Yes, it makes it so difficult and complicated. And that's why at the end of all my videos, I always tell y'all, you know, I'm going to show you that eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle doesn't have to be complicated, because I think so many people have gotten this message that they need to be tracking or they need to be cutting out this food group or that food group, or, you know, doing some weird calculus to figure out what they're going to eat. And all of that just is not necessary, and it actually causes a lot of problems. So I'm glad that you're getting that from the videos. Fresh Arch says, I often make sure to go into the common room and just get a bueno? I don't know what that is, from the vending machine. That's great. I think that's great. She's like, hey, this isn't a thing you have to do. I'm over here not doing Weight Watchers, and it's great. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's a thing, like, as for me as a dietitian, like, obviously it's different than what y'all experience just every day, you know, going through your life. But I'm sure y'all, if you're, you know, on the anti-diet, we don't need to be doing this stuff, if you're of that mindset, like, you kind of feel like I want other people to know that this is a thing, or like to see that it doesn't have to be this hard. And that's something I've told y'all about this before, like at social events or whatever, people always ask me questions or whatever, and a lot of my work is just telling people, like, actually it's not that big of a deal, like, just eat some food and don't worry about it so much. So that's an example of you're trying to do that too. Oh, Jamie says, hi, I'm a new sub. What's your opinion on cutting out food groups? Oh, before we get to that, Fresh Arch says, Kinder Bueno is the best chocolate bar in existence. Well, I've never had one, but I'll have to look for it now. Oh, and Jason says, just looked it up. It looks awesome. Thanks for the heads up on that, because I'm always interested in trying new foods. Okay. So I'm going to get to your question in a second, Jamie. I'm going to read what Josh just said, and then I'll answer your question. Josh says, I do agree that parents are doing the best of what they know, but I also think parents have a responsibility to figure out what's best for their children, do research, make the best decision. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And I think a big thing that's just getting in the way of that right now is when people do look up, I think they're still saying that, like, oh, you need to put your kid on a diet or whatever. And I'm glad, again, that there's more information getting out there. If you're a parent and, like, you came to this because you hear about this Weight Watchers thing, but you're like, I mean, I don't know, I thought this was a good thing, but now people are saying it's not good. I don't know what to do. There's a book by a dietitian named Ellen Satter called, what is it called? Weight, Helping Your Kids Without Harming, something along those lines is the title of that one. That's a book that addresses that specifically, and isn't about, you know, putting your kids on diets or whatever. So that might be a good resource for you. Okay, Jamie's question about cutting out food groups. Well, the short answer is no. You don't need to cut out food groups. I think it's something that's very popular right now. It seems more popular in recent years, and I think it's because it's something, right, that's easy to tell people, like, as your diet or lifestyle, as we were talking about earlier, about people calling everything a lifestyle, even though it's still a diet. Just tell them, oh, just cut out this, this, and this, and then all your problems will be solved. Or we really like to demonize foods or nutrients or food groups or whatever, and so it's just kind of an extension of that. Like, people really want to hear that one thing is causing all of their problems, and if they just get rid of it, then everything will be better, even though that's not the case. So I think that's why it's popular, but it's not a good thing to do, because we need a variety of foods. We need foods from all the food groups, because they give us a variety of nutrients. They also give us a variety of flavors and textures and all that kinds of stuff with our food, which is important too, for us to just enjoy our food and have a good time when we're eating. So you don't need to cut out food groups. eliminating a food or a food group is only a thing to do if you have an allergy to that food, or if there's some medical reason. If you're allergic to peanuts, by all means cut out peanuts. That's perfectly fine. Or if you're allergic to almonds, I'm not saying you need to eat almonds, but aside from that, cutting out foods is not something that's necessary for good health, and it's, again, just like a lot of the dieting stuff we've been talking about today, can actually be really damaging to your health, because you can be limiting your access to nutrients, or just, damaging the way that you think and relate to and feel about food, which isn't good either. Okay, I'm gonna get another sip of water. Okay. Nathaniel says, sorry I'm late, just found your channel. I'm glad there's someone who shows an understanding that people are different and therefore need different things. Just wanted to say that. Well, thank you, Nathaniel. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you're appreciating what's going on in the channel and that you're finding it helpful. That's really great for me to hear. Whenever I hear encouraging words from y'all, it really helps, because I'm not gonna lie, sometimes with YouTube stuff I get frustrated, or I get, I don't know, does this stuff really matter, or whatever. Or when you see the kind of stuff that's popular, it's like, okay, I guess that's what's popular. I'm just gonna do my thing over here. So it really is encouraging to me, and it helps me keep going with making these videos when y'all share stuff like that. It means a lot to me, and I want to make sure that you know that, and I really do appreciate it, and I don't take it lightly. Jenna99 says, Jamie Oliver managed to help kids eat better simply by teaching kids and parents how to cook. Yeah, I think that's a good example. Just getting people in the kitchen and showing them all the possibilities of things you can do, and making food fun and interesting. Now, with that said, I think, you don't have to love to cook as your favorite hobby. I think on the flip side, there's this thing of everyone should want to cook as their hobby and it should be their favorite thing to do. Not necessarily. Some people, cooking is just a thing that they do because they need to eat and get food on the table. So if you're not a culinary genius, or you don't want to cook all the time, that's okay too. But it still is an important skill for taking care of yourself that we all need to do, because it's just a part of taking care of ourselves, is knowing how to make sure that we can get food. So it's so important for everyone to learn. Okay, Fresh Arch says, besides, if you're supposed to be on a FODMAP diet, which I am, but I love the Buenos so much. Also, I'm afraid I'll fall back on ED behavior, so I wait until I can do it with help. Yeah, so there can be different, medical reasons for certain diets. So going back to that, why, if you have to cut out things or whatever. But other than that, not a thing to do. Oh, Nita's back. Didn't need to leave yet. Awesome, good to hear. Jason, sorry to call you back in here. You mentioned earlier that you had some questions. I don't know if we've covered them at this point.
Maybe.
Maybe?
So, what was that? So has Weight Watchers actually published a response yet?
Yes. I
Yeah,
talked a little bit
response?
about that at the beginning, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they said that they are, they hear us, and this is about helping families have healthy lifestyles, and they're going to work with health professionals as they develop this program. It's not about putting kids on diets. So that's their statement, but we shall see what happens.
I have a couple things.
Okay, go ahead.
So, do you think they expected this reaction? And if so, do you think they cared? Because they just were like, we'll weather it, and we can make that money.
Interesting. I mean, it's gotten their name out there. I mean, am I just doing what?
Make that money.
Nita says hi to you and to Porngy. If y'all didn't know, this is my husband, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of our cats, Big Orange, also known as Porngy, because Porngy, but, all of our cats have 10 different nicknames.
They're all in here, too.
Yeah, Luna is laying on the floor right here. You can't see her. So yeah, that's Jason, and he also has a channel, Cats and Pats, if you want to see things about kitty cats, including our kitty cats. Yeah, I wonder if they expected this reaction. I mean, they have to know, because they have been shifting their language, because they know that the anti-diet thing is a thing, right? And lifestyles, right? That's why they say it's a lifestyle. I saw recently that they're getting rid of before and after photos in their marketing. So they know that that's a thing that people are kind of pushing against. So I think that they may have known, but I don't know if they knew that it would be to this extent, because I think they probably thought, a lot of people think, oh, this is about helping kids or whatever, be healthy. Because I think most people still think that way. I'm not sure. See, it's hard for me to know what I don't know what y'all think. Maybe it's hard for y'all too if you're watching my videos, to know what the general, average person thinks. Because I'm surrounded by dietitians and just people who are like, this is awful. Like, I haven't seen anyone saying, like, this is a great idea. But maybe a lot of people do think it's a great idea, and I'm just, kind of in my bubble. So I'm not really sure, but they are getting a lot of attention. And Fresh Arch says attention is currency in the marketplace of ideas. So it could be, they pull a tart and do it for attention. Yeah, I think that could definitely, if y'all aren't familiar, Tarte's a makeup company. They've had their whole thing going on right now. We won't get into that, but same kind of thing where, even if you do something that's not great, if you're getting your name out there, even if it's negative attention,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that are probably like, these people are bonkers that, are upset. Weight Watchers is doing a great thing. And I don't mean to say that in a kind of dumb voice. That was probably whatever. But people who feel that way or think that way, and now they're just seeing like, now maybe they're hearing about this and didn't know it was a thing. So that's something I think about, like making these videos and stuff. Like, am I just bringing more attention to this stuff? But when it's something this egregious, I'm like, we got to talk about it because people need to know that it's bad. So that's what I'm saying.
Can I ask one more? Quick.
Yeah.
It should be quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you know of, or have you heard of it? Like, has anybody else done this? Like, has what's that? Nutrisystem or anybody? Have they done anything that's like kid targeted before? Or is Weight Watchers the first?
Not that I know. Not this. Like, come join for free if you're a kid. Not that I'm aware of. At least not recently.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there are. Weight Watchers is such like the big one. I feel like where people get their kids involved and maybe because it seems like the least nefarious, I think, to people because it's just about eating as far as like taking a supplement or something. I don't know. But I mean, yeah, this seems to me so like, let's get these kids in the door so we can make some money. Yeah. Oh, Pornji, don't rub your face on the phone.
That's how Netflix works too.
Yeah, come here.
See these kids in
Pornji's knocking the.
No, there's too many kitties.
Here we go.
The kitties have.
That's Luna right there.
I think that's all I have.
Okay, let me get back in. That's all you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pat this kitty for a second.
Okay. Pornji, do you want to get down? Or are you good? Nita says Pornji is her porn star name. Yeah, that's the frequent joke.
I say it's her.
What did they call
her
that
video
cat?
name.
Yeah. That's why I like to clarify because I know people here and they're like, "Did she just say what I think she said?" Okay, honey, stop rubbing your face on the phone.
Okay. Give me a headache.
Thank you. She's like, this is great. A great thing to scratch my chin on.
Come here.
Okay, there we go. Back to comments. Thanks for those, Jason. Those were good questions. Nathaniel says, on that subject, what's your opinion of the verbiage of lifestyle for these diets or programs? We talked a little about this earlier in the live stream, Nathaniel, so if you weren't here, definitely rewatch the replay to hear more. But I think, these companies know that diets aren't in. They're starting to see that transition. And so the people just slap the name lifestyle on everything. Because then they think that means it's healthy. It's just a lifestyle. It's about a lifestyle, guys. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. But what matters is the content of what's happening, not whatever you call it. We have to look at what's actually going on. If it's a diet, it's a diet. It doesn't matter if you call it a lifestyle. But I think that's a big problem because it's almost like these diets are hiding and they're a little sneaky because maybe it's harder for people to see them for what they are because they're all being packaged as lifestyles. So I think that's a problem because it's not as straightforward for the average consumer. Jenin says, I'm against anyone who makes things like eating harder. Yes. And also says that their cat just jumped up on their lap. How sweet. Cats are the best buddies, especially when you're watching YouTube videos. Fresh Arch says, these are fat camps for kids. They torture them, basically. I hope they are rare, but a friend from college was in one, and guess what? She's still fat and happy, so whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I would hope this type of stuff happens less. Jenna99 says that they are a guy. Okay, I'll call you he now. I didn't want to call you the wrong thing. Jason, whenever he types with cats and pats, people always call him a she. Because I guess if you like cats, then, yeah, same problem. You must be a girl. where I was going. Oh, yeah. Talking about, the kids and Weight Watchers. I mean, again, if you look at that hashtag, hashtag Wake Up Weight Watchers, so many, I saw one, it was like, I don't know how old the person was, between 8 and 12 or something around there. They got signed up for Weight Watchers as a kid, and she said, I remember I don't know what they call them, leaders or coaches or whatever, her person that she was supposed to report to at the meeting or whatever, told her that they were going to lock her in the meeting room for the weekend with just water because she didn't lose weight that week. I mean, obviously they didn't lock her in there, but to say that to a child, say that to anyone, regardless of their age, is awful. But to say that to a child, it's really, really disturbing. And again, that's all, I don't think that's part of the Weight Watchers program, is to, like, they're telling all their people, make sure you use that, you're going to lock them up technique. That's a real good one. Maybe they do. I don't know what kind of training those people get. But the fact that that kind of mentality and that kind of thing is thriving in that environment, I think says a lot. And that no one said, hey, that's wrong, and stood up and said that's not acceptable. Okay, Nita says, what's your thoughts on diet camps and spas that work people out military style? Yeah, again, I don't like that sort of thing because it's not helping people make the changes they need to make if they want to make changes. Like, I'm totally for people trying to build healthier habits if they have a desire to do that. But, like, if you go to a camp like that, I think a lot of it is still based on weight, right? Maybe there's weigh-ins or things like that. And also, it's like, okay, you go to this place and they force you to work out excessively, which is dangerous for someone who hasn't worked out in a while, and, like, put you on maybe a restrictive diet, and then you go home and what happens? I think it's kind of like Biggest Loser is an extreme version of that as a television show, but I think we can look at that and see the type of experience that those people have had. Like, doing a program like that, it's not going to help someone make lasting change in their life, and it can also do a lot of damage in the process. So then, now, with that said, I think there can definitely be value in taking classes. If you want to take a cooking class because you don't know how to cook, I think that can be great. Or if you want to get a personal trainer to teach you how to do different exercises properly so you're not, hurting yourself in the gym if you've never worked out before or haven't worked out in a long time, they can teach you the proper form. Or going to classes at the gym. I really like that for myself personally because I like having the instructor there saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I think for me, growing up with a dance background, that kind of environment just is kind of my style because it's what I'm used to. So things like that can be good, but kind of this, like, take you out of society type of thing. I don't want to say, because you could go on a retreat. Like, I know people who go on, it's like a vacation type thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go to this retreat where it's kind of like an all-inclusive resort, and maybe there are group fitness classes or yoga classes or whatever. Or, if it's at the ocean, like a scuba diving class. But it's not like, you're here and you're going to get up at this time and we're going to work you till you pass out, and you can eat this much and only that much and that sort of thing. So I guess that's what I'm saying is not a good idea. Jenny99 says that their cat's name is Bootsy, and that they have to explain that he's male. Yeah, Porngy gets the problem of most orange cats are males, so everyone always assumes that she's a boy, but she's not. Fresh Arch says, I'm glad that my workout YouTube, you said YT. That to me means YouTube. If it means something else, you let me know. Now focuses less on weight loss, more on becoming stronger. She's not quite there, but she's still getting there. Yeah, I think that is hopefully something that's shifting more too. I think it's easier and easier to find dietitians for this kind of thing. Trainers, that still might be a problem. Because that's something else to look out for. Like, if you're hiring a trainer, if it's someone who's going to be making comments about your weight all the time, or pressuring you to lose weight, or starting to give you nutrition advice when that's really not their expertise, that's something that happens all the time, and it irritates me so much, is fitness trainers who want to give people, like, diets and things. Like, nutrition and fitness, a lot of times what the types of things we talk about might overlap, talking to people about how they're taking care of themselves or what, their health or whatever. But just the same way as I would never tell someone what workouts to do, because I'm not a personal trainer, I might say, hey, maybe you want to try going for a walk, or maybe you want to check out Yoga with Adriene. That's a great resource. I'm not going to make anyone some sort of fitness plan or say, this is how you do a squat with proper form, because that's not my expertise. Same thing with personal trainers. They shouldn't be giving people nutrition information other than like, eat a healthy, balanced diet or something, like something very general. But a lot of times they do give that type of thing. So something to look out for if you are getting a trainer, that they're not going to be kind of going against what you're maybe trying to do. Nathaniel says, what do you think is the impact on the body of a bodybuilder's diet and exercise schedule? I feel like it would come with a lack of several necessities. Yeah. Bodybuilders, what they put themselves through is really intense. And again, it's all focused on appearance, right? So it's not about health. It's about making your body look a certain way. And I don't have personal experience with bodybuilders in my life, or I've never had like a client who is a bodybuilder or former bodybuilder. But just from what I have seen through YouTube videos, because I've watched some videos of some bodybuilders just to kind of get a feel for what they're doing, sharing their very regimented food, very restrictive, everything's pre-portioned and counted and calculated, and there's no wiggle room. And then what happens is they do that, very restrictive thing. This is a perfect example of that kind of cycle I always talk about of restrict and then binge. They restrict this whole time. They do their competition, and then they'll have a video of them talking about how they went out with their family to the store after their bodybuilding competition and bought, 3 dozen donuts and 2 cakes and 5 hamburgers and a pile of rice because they were doing low carb and they couldn't have rice, or so, I don't know, whatever food that they weren't letting themselves eat, or foods, they just kind of go wild. And it's like this, eat it while you can kind of mentality. We got to get all this in, binge type thing, because they've been restricting for so long. And it's like, that's not good for you. You can tell like the mentality isn't healthy. And then, then it's back to the diet when they're getting ready for their next competition or whatever. And, it's just not something I can get on board with. If someone came to me and was like, hey, can you help me with this bodybuilding thing? That's not something that I would do. But, I worry for those people when I see those types of things. And I just hope that they can get to a healthy place. I don't want to pass judgment on people who are into that sort of thing, but watching it happen, there's so much unhealthy stuff going on. So I worry for those people a lot, is what I'll say. So let me see where I left off. And I think we're going to have to wrap up here soon, because I'm getting tired and I also need to make dinner for me and Jason. Okay. Fresh Arch says, you have a video on what the research says about how much genes influence your body form, because there's still a myth out there. It's 80% diet, 20% workout, but obviously it's not true. I don't have a video about that, and I don't have a specific number or stat that I can pull kind of right out of my brain. I wish I did, but I do think that's important to remember, is that genetics are such a factor here. I think it's good to let people know that like the choices they make can impact how they feel and how their health is, but it definitely goes to extreme where people are like, it's all about what you do, and if you just do the right things, you'll live forever or whatever. Not true. There are absolutely genetic factors involved in your health and in the way your body looks and all these kinds of things. Excuse me, I'm burping again. Not very cute to do on a live stream, but it's just the reality. Yeah, there's so many things that affect the way your body looks and your health. And I mean, as far as appearance, that's like all genetics. I mean, the things you do can make a difference, obviously. Like if you're severely under eating, or if someone has like a binge eating disorder or something like that, or is just consistently overeating, or maybe doesn't have access to a variety of foods or whatever, then that could impact it. But just like same thing with height. If someone doesn't have access to proper nutrition when they're growing, they might not be as tall as their body naturally would be if they had those building blocks to grow. So things like that can affect it, but as far as, our body's natural state, that's a genetic thing. And when you look at kids, like if you look at growth curves or whatever, like I think a lot of people think, oh, I want my kid to be right in the middle. No, some kids are going to be the bigger kid and some kids are going to be the smaller kid. Just looking out in the world, we're not all the same height, we're not all the same shape or size. We have a lot of variety there. Jamie says, yes, I don't like how there are so many YouTubers with no nutrition background advising people, especially young people, with extreme diets labeled as lifestyles. Preach, Jamie. I feel the same way. And that's one reason, I feel like it's important for me to make videos, is that there's so many people talking about nutrition who maybe have good intentions, but just are sharing poor information, don't know what they're talking about, and in many cases could actually be doing some real harm, and they're very influential. And so I'm hoping that, the stuff I can do can kind of be a counter to that, to give people some more accurate information. One Powerful Force says, I quit my personal trainer because not only did she want to be my nutritionist as well, she also wanted to be my life coach, to the point of interfering with my marriage. She definitely overstepped. Wow. Yeah, I can see that. And, it's something to remember for all types of helping professionals, whether it's a trainer or a dietitian or a therapist or a doctor or, the variety that's out there, is that we all have our own scope of practice, the things that we know about, and then, there is some overlap there, some things that we kind of share, but as roles, but you have to know where kind of your edge ends and where, the next professional begins, and to know that, okay, this isn't really my thing, maybe I can refer this person to someone else who can help them with that, and that's really important. Jenna99 just shared a clip. If you are here live and watching, a clip from Australian Biggest Loser, a good example of why extreme workouts do more harm than good. So if you're interested in that, that's there. And then Josh says, obesity in kids, is that genetic? Whatever size or shape a kid is, yes, it's going to be genetic as far as what their natural size or shape is. Now, there can definitely be situations where someone, like I said earlier, could be outside of that. So if you have a child, maybe that parents pile their plate up with food and then tell them that they have to clean their plate at every meal. That's forcing that child to eat far beyond what their hunger is saying they need, and so they're going to be taking in more energy than their body needs, and then they could be higher than what their natural weight is. Other things that could cause that sort of thing, if a child, again, doesn't have access to a lot of variety of food, so maybe either just because the parents don't provide that, or maybe there's a financial situation in the home where either they don't have enough quantity of food, or maybe they don't have variety of food, maybe it's a lot relying heavily on maybe packaged, processed convenience foods, which are fine to have in your life, but if you're only getting that and not getting the other foods, then that could cause the weight to not be at its natural place. And that's something that's really important to remember, I think, too, with kids especially, is that, what's going on in the home matters, and kids don't have control over that. And so, to kind of put it on them, like, you need to work on this or do this, there could be so many other factors at play, that could be contributing. And tons of things that I didn't even mention or I'm not even thinking of. There's so many things that can influence all of this stuff, food choices, and all that kind of thing. Nathaniel says, what's your personal expertise in your training and career? At what point do you recommend contacting a dietitian? So for me, I'm a registered dietitian. In the US, that means that I have a degree in nutrition from an accredited program, and then I did a 1,200-hour internship, which is in the field, practical experience, working in hospitals and schools and that sort of thing. And then I took my exam. And then after you pass your exam, every 5 years, we have to do continuing education, and then, submit those hours, similar to what other professionals do, like teachers or things like that. You have to kind of keep current with what's going on by doing continuing education. And I think contacting a dietitian, if you have access to that and can do it, I think it's kind of similar Porngy, don't jump into that drawer. Jason, she's gonna jump into this drawer. Oh, it didn't make a big crash. I thought it was gonna make a big sound. She likes to get in drawers. What was I saying? Health professionals, something. Jason, do you remember what I was saying?
No.
Oh, when to seek a dietitian. I don't think there can be too early if you have the access, because I think lots of us, even if it's just like a check-in type of thing, could benefit from speaking with a professional, and just, especially because we live in a diet culture that's sending us such mixed messages about stuff, or incorrect messages. But I would say the time to contact a dietitian, well, obviously if you have a medical condition that's where diet is related in some way, speak to a dietitian. I've seen lots of people in my schooling and in my professional career that, like, you know, they did not get the nutrition education that they should have gotten when they were diagnosed with diabetes, for example. Or if they did get it, it wasn't enough or consistent enough. So definitely that. If you are struggled with any sort of dieting, or if you have weight concerns, or if you if you find that food is like controlling your life, or you're obsessing around food, or maybe you're restricting food or binging or purging or anything like that could be in the eating disorder or disordered eating category, you definitely want to seek out a dietitian and a therapist for that sort of thing. And if you need help, like, developing cooking skills, honestly, I've had clients who just didn't know how to cook, or maybe they didn't have an oven in their home. They only had a microwave. So it was us figuring out, like, the appliances they could get or things they could do to make that work so they could cook food that they liked and that, you know, met their needs and all that kind of stuff. So anytime you have concerns about food or cooking or nutrition, a dietitian is the person to go for that. And, you know, also know that there are dietitians who specialize in things. So I do more intuitive eating, wellness, healthy habit change, non-diet approach. You know, I do occasionally help people who maybe have specific medical concern, but that's not my expertise. There are dietitians who specialize in eating disorders, dietitians who specialize in, like, kidney failure and kidney issues, dietitians who specialize in food allergies or digestive disorders or whatever. So also know that if you have a very specific concern, that there are specialists in the world of dietitians that you can go to. So that's also good to know. And Jenny99 says, if you can't get the URL, search I'm proud that I made him vomit in YouTube. Oh, it's a clip from The Biggest Loser with Jillian Michaels. And Jenna99 says that she brutally tortures a contestant in the guise of working out. Yeah, I mean, The Biggest Loser has so much stuff that's just really disturbing. And I'll be totally honest, I was a big fan of The Biggest Loser back in the day. When I was younger, I was totally into it and I thought it was great. So I think that's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, about people are only working with the information they have, and they might not realize that something's harmful or, you know, is causing a problem. Because back then I thought it was awesome because I didn't know any better. So, you know, again, to have that compassion with people and not assume the worst of people, I think is really important. Fresh Arch says, I really wish I had the money. Oh, okay, so metabolism issues with eating disorder. Yeah, I mean, that can be a thing, like, for people who have eating disorder, maybe don't, that there's definitely a process of your body kind of getting back into its normal state after dealing with eating disorder or disordered eating, and that can take some time. But also knowing that it can happen and your body can heal, I think is really important. Just to know that it's a process and it takes time, but it can definitely happen. And, you know, every situation is going to be different as far as what you were going through, or, you know, kind of what point it got to, but, you know, to keep working and trying. And I think that's important. And also just to remember to take care of yourself. That's the most important thing. Josh says, working with an RD is a great idea locally or online. Everyone has a doctor, but how many people have an RD? Or if you just want to eat healthier, be healthier. Yes, Josh, I totally agree. You can come and market for all the RDs out there. Because it's true. Most people haven't seen a dietitian, and you can find someone locally. You can work with someone online. My practice is virtual. I work with people online, and that's what I do. And I think it's, you know, lots of people, you go see your dentist or whatever, but just to check in. I really think that's a thing that people should be encouraged to do more, because I think there's a lot of things that people don't even realize necessarily that a dietitian might be able to help them with. All right, y'all. I'm gonna answer what's left in the chat right now, and then I'm gonna go. If you want to say other fun things like whatever that aren't questions or whatever, that's fine. But I just want to let you know, I don't want anyone to feel sad if you put a comment or a question after this point. I'm not going to get to it because I got to go make dinner, but I'll answer what's here. Mr. Country DIY, can you have a good diet if you don't eat dairy products? I used to be allergic to dairy. They tried camel's milk. Okay, so dairy isn't a required food. And I won't get into this too much. I feel like this is a whole other can of worms. Lots of people out there tell you to quit dairy or you need to cut it out. You don't. Dairy can be a perfectly fine food as long as you aren't allergic to it, or you don't have or you don't have lactose intolerance where you can't digest it well, which 2/3 of the world's population is lactose intolerant So for a lot of people, they can't tolerate dairy products, or maybe you can do goat's milk, but you can't do cow's milk, whatever. So aside from that, dairy's perfectly fine to have. But it's also not something that's required. If you have those issues, or you don't enjoy it, or you don't want to consume it for some other reason, then that's perfectly fine. I always tell people there isn't any one food that everyone needs to be eating. The only thing with dairy is just to know that it has a really easy to absorb form of calcium, and that's why it's great to include in the diet if you can, because it does have that calcium that's easy to absorb, and plus things like yogurt and cheese are delicious. So if you're not doing dairy, you just got to be aware to get your calcium other places. Leafy green vegetables can give you calcium, but it's not as easy to absorb. You can get fortified things like fortified almond milk or fortified coconut milk or whatever. That's good. So you want to look for that sort of thing. But again, not required, but also perfectly healthy to include. And I didn't say this at the beginning of this, but y'all know when I do these live streams or answer these questions, this is just for general information. It's not substitute for, speaking with a dietitian one-on-one or a doctor or anything like that. Okay, where was I? Oh, one powerful force. With intuitive eating, does a person who's eating this way wait until the stomach actually growls, or are there other signals for the person to look for before or after that point? It really depends on person to person. Not everyone gets that kind of growling stomach. Some people just kind of feel an emptiness. There's all kinds of different things. Looking in the intuitive eating book, I think, is really good to kind of help you go over some of that stuff, or working with a dietitian to figure out what your signs are personally, and you can kind of learn that. The big thing, I think with intuitive eating, a lot of people think it's just eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And that's not what it is. That's just part of it, is being aware of that. But sometimes you might eat when you're not hungry. Like, say I ate a little while ago, I'm not hungry yet, but Jason and I are going to the movies. We're gonna be sitting in the theater, and the movie's 2.5 hours long, and then we're gonna go to dinner afterwards. And I know that it's gonna take us time to get to the restaurant, then we're gonna have to wait for our food, and by that time I'm gonna be absolutely ravenous. Then I might eat something before we go into the movie theater, or have a snack in my bag to have after we get out or something, even though I'm not hungry right then, because I'm kind of planning for my hunger ahead of time. So that's one example of when you might eat when you're not hungry, or you might not stop when you're full, too, in certain situations. So, the thing is, too, though, with, paying attention to your hunger, you don't want to wait until you're super ravenous. You want to wait until you are hungry, but not to the point where you're starving and you can't even think about your food. You just kind of got to eat whatever is there as fast as you can, because you're so hungry. Okay, Josh says, thank you so much, Sarah. Great conversation this evening. Alina says, thanks, Sarah. You're the only nutrition-related channel I trust and follow on YouTube. You really are so helpful. Thanks. Great to hear from you, Alina. And I'm glad that you find everything so helpful. And thank you, Josh. I'm glad that you enjoyed the conversation. Mr. Country DIY says, bye. Have a good night. Bye. Thanks for joining. And I hope that y'all enjoyed this and found it helpful. One Powerful Force says, that was very helpful. Thank you. Good. I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, I hope y'all are having a great day, a great evening, a great morning, whatever, wherever you are. And I'm going to go make dinner, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.